Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. Your magical kiss will take me just so far. Talk to me, talk to me, talk to me. Don't leave me like this, dangling from a star. You set me all aflame and it's so pleasing. It sure would be a shame if you were only teasing. So my love, before I go, turn the lights way down low and talk to me. Talk to me, talk to me.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Don McKeag Show. We're here to educate, mediate, moderate, irritate, infiltrate, every other trait, but we don't imitate. I hope you've had a great couple of weeks here after the 4th of July. We weren't able to be on last week, but we are back running. And as you can see, we have a call-in show. We encourage you to participate in this show. I am here to try very hard to offset what I have always contended for years was a tremendously biased and dishonest majority of the press. Abraham Lincoln once said, think of it in today's society, you cannot help the poor by destroying the rich. You cannot strengthen the weak by weakening the strong. You cannot bring about prosperity by discouraging thrift. You cannot lift the wage earner up by pulling the wage payer down. You cannot further the brotherhood of man by inciting hatred. And you cannot build character and courage by taking away initiative and that all-important word, independence. We have a culture now that is working its hardest to make you and me dependent on them. We have, as a former Democrat, strong Democrat, hard-working Democrat, John Fitzgerald Kennedy Democrat, I have watched that party deteriorate into the form that it now has assumed, which is basically socialism. Democrats can get upset about this, but if you look up the definition of socialism, you'll see the truth. The trouble is today, we do not have people really concerned with the truth. They become defensive about the truth. Napoleon Bonaparte once said, 4 hostile newspapers are more to be feared than 1,000 bayonets. Now, he was only 52 when he died in 1821, and things could not be truer, which is why I go on the radio on WXTK Saturdays from 11 to 1, and Ken Bukes and I have done this show, or started to do this show, and hopefully to give you an area in which you may participate if you wish. The newspapers, you can't participate. Oh, they have letters to the editor, but on shows like this, you have an opportunity to agree or disagree, which is, or used to be, the American way. So this show is an attempt to try to level some of the obvious out-of-balance media reporting now. What I just read, attributed to Abraham Lincoln, some said it was a minister that Abraham Lincoln heard, and he adapted it added a couple of things to it for those naysayers, which of course we always have out there. One of the problems with Abraham Lincoln in today's culture is most people in our young population don't even know he was a Republican, because that's how defensive and how insidious this particular type of communication has become. And that's what drove me away from the Democratic Party. I've been pleading with my Democratic friends in the business world to wake up. Stop supporting those who are anti-business, who continue to give to those who do not participate, to those who do not live the way America has evolved, and that is to earn your way, to contribute. That's part of what the deep-seated anger of many of us is in this illegal immigration. And it's also, to me, a mirror of what's happened to the moral core, which is pretty near non-existent in today's Democratic leadership. Not in the Democrats who are good people, who work hard for their party, but they're lost. I firmly believe they are lost. They've lost what this country was founded on. They've lost it. They've lost the fact that we were founded on a Christian Judeo society. Not other religions. That was what we were founded on. We tolerate other religions, but our foundation was built on the precepts and principles of the Christian Judeo religion. It's eroding very fast. Last week I talked about the fact that our legal system, you know, we have three branches: executive, judicial, and representative, and we have Congress, we have the Senate, we have the House of Representatives, we have the legal, and the legal system, one of the arms of this country, deemed it illegal to have the Ten Commandments posted on government buildings. That same group refuses, especially in Massachusetts and other states, refuses to call illegal entry into the country illegal. Now, I don't know what the definition of insanity is in your mind, but I know that that is insanity in my mind. Conflict of interest we see now over and over. In the town of Carver last year, it came before town meeting. I was at town meeting. And I'm just amazed to see where this protectiveness of the liberal mentality in minorities, it's not about equal rights anymore, it's about control and about everyone having everything they want. Imagine how insane it is to say if one person is offended by something, the whole system should change. That's the bottom line of a lot of minority groups. That's why you have people, the world's turned upside down. We have jobs disappearing overnight, daily. We have the press propping up this president. And yet, anytime you're critical, it becomes a racial issue. Equal treatment? No, sir. Special treatment is what we now see, ladies and gentlemen. Make no bones about it. You look at every minority group, not the people in the group, the spokespeople for those groups. They are angry at whatever. And I've always said, if you get up in the morning, I don't care whether you're black, white, Catholic, Protestant, Jewish, Muslim, fat, skinny, pimply-faced, doesn't matter. If you don't like what you see in the mirror and you're angry and you're going to take it out on somebody, it's not up to our society and our culture to make you feel better. But that's how this country has evolved now, and it continues every single day. And as long as you vote for the same people, you're going to get the same results. Please stop the party politics. We have to stop that. We have to vote people who aren't following the precepts that our grandparents and parents and the future generations were successful with. We've got to get them out when they no longer follow those precepts. It isn't rocket science. We can't have an educational system that props up minorities to the detriment of the majority. I'll take our criticism. I'll take the fact that America has not always done the right thing. We're human beings, remember that? But tell me one minority group that's always done the right thing. It doesn't matter. It becomes an issue now for them. Just a little aside, I don't know how many of you have ever gotten a ticket down in Plymouth, down on the waterfront. Beautiful, by the way, beautiful place down there. And having been a businessman in Hyannis for a long time, and in Falmouth, owning restaurants and all, I know what parking means to the business community. And I know the towns had to make some kind of effort to stop people, especially employees at the time, who were taking up parking spaces that were meant to service the customers for the businesses that pay the taxes. That's what brought upon meters and other things. But the reason I bring this up is I got a ticket down on Main Street in Plymouth. And I was 10 minutes overdue, and of course I wasn't happy. It's a $15 ticket. Now, I play by the rules. I was foolish. I should have used my credit card. Instead, I put coins in. So there's a ticket on there. I said, well, it's your fault. I didn't pay, and the person's doing their job. However, I get home and I read, they give you the envelope, and I read the directions and so forth, and they give you an option to call your ticket in. And I presume, which it is, I guess, that you can give your credit card number. So I said, well, I'll save the buck, 95 cents for the stamp, or what it is, 49 cents, whatever it is. And I'll call it in. I call the number, and I'm just warning all of you, I call, and it's, yes, you can call your ticket, and I read the number of the ticket, and so forth. But then they inform you that the cost on your credit card will be $18.50. So to call in, can you believe that, Kenny? $18.50, $3.50 for the privilege of giving you an opportunity to call in your parking ticket. Yeah, let's hear it for the business community. But what I want to know is, I'd love to hear, and you see the numbers, 560, wait, I can't read it, 830-3971. What do you think about this? This is a little topic. $3.50. Now, is that sending a good message to tourists or anyone else either? I believe that's a ripoff. So that was just a little aside. And the other thing that's a bee in my bonnet as a businessman, and I'm speaking to those of you who are not only owners of businesses, but those of you who work in the private sector. See, everything I'm going to talk about is to try to convince you of why I say we are a socialist country when we are ruled by liberal Democrats, which we are ruled by right now. Socialism is total government control. It's always failed in the long run in every single country that it's been in control. And it's failing in other European countries right now. because it takes away incentive. It's automatic. Unions were necessary, but unionism becomes almost inevitably socialistic in nature, where there's automatic raises, automatic time off, automatic this, automatic that, time off when your dog gets sick. You laugh. This is where we've gone with government workers, because there is no bottom line. They just squeeze the taxpayer. So let's get back to downtown Plymouth, because I've been watching this. I love Plymouth. And I like the people in Plymouth. This is, again, Donald McKeag speaks about principles, not personalities. Liberals have never been able to get through that. They hate you when you disagree or when you get your way. That's the truth. I'm a conservative. I was a conservative Democrat. I don't get so angry that I won't talk to someone when they get their way. But that's what we have now. And then I hear all this liberal nonsense on the television about how divisive we become. You bet your life. If you've got to agree with someone to get along with them on everything, then you're the problem. You're the problem. You know, bringing up a family. Do you always agree with your kids? Don't you have down and out fights over the kids? Don't you have them cry because they don't get their way? What are you going to do? Change that to stop them from crying and give them their own way all the time? Well, we've got too many people who've done that, and that's what we've got now, grown up. They got their own way all their lives, and now they expect it in their adulthood. Well, downtown, in that Rotary, down by the waterfront, it has taken forever. Now, this is the high season. Think this over. This happened down in Hyannis. It still does. I'm just as critical of them because it's the same government worker mentality. Their paycheck, their insurance, their vacations, nothing is affected in the timing of a job getting done. But the private sector, it is. Right now, I guarantee, if the businesses in downtown Plymouth were in charge of those nice rotaries that are being installed, the stonework and the little islands in the middle, there would already be flowers and mulch, and it would be done. And don't tell me I don't know what goes into construction. I've done plenty of it. Drive over to Cranberry Highway. I was just over there today. That small bridge coming out of Buzzards Bay has been tied up for over 2 years. One small bridge. There's businesses that I've seen closing their doors. No one cares for them because the people doing the work are getting their paycheck. The people in government are getting their paycheck. They have no incentive. When I was a business owner, big business, there were many days I had to not do what I'd like to do in order to get the job done so that the business and my employees would be able to make that living. That's the danger of socialism. That's why you hear all the talk about keeping government small, all the way back to George Washington. Not because the evil business community wants to give the shaft to the workers. That's what they'd have you believe. And that's what the Communist Party does. How'd Russia do with communism, huh? How did they do? How's China doing with it? You prefer it? Why do we have all our borders being overrun with people who want to come in to this evil capitalistic society? I don't understand. I don't understand how you can't see that. Well, I do understand. It's greed, individual greed. So a conflict of interest has to do with government workers being able to hold government executive positions. It's always been a no-no. for good reason. A conflict of interest means just what it says. When your interest is personal, when your paycheck comes to you through the government, you are not supposed to be in a position where you have authority over your paycheck, over your job. We have a caller. Well, that's wonderful. Welcome to the Don McKeag Show.
Well, how are you?
Well, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you. I want to talk about Israel.
Israel.
Can I do that?
Let me tell you, I've just talked straight for about 20 minutes. I would be grateful to talk.
Okay.
And most of all, I'd like to have you state your particular position and anything you'd like to say that that is one of the reasons for your concern, but that's not necessary either.
Okay.
What's your name?
My name's Mike. I live in Rockland.
Rockland, Mass. I taught high school there and coached for years.
Yeah, you didn't teach me, though. I'm too old. Okay.
But anyway, this is a good topic, too, because this, of course, has always been a source of concern for me, and I've never understood how the Jewish community could be so anti-Bush, both Bushes, when they were always so positive. And I believe in Israel and in its strength. They are our oasis, the oasis of democracy, and I don't understand how the Jewish population in the United States continues to support Democrats who, like this sitting president, have been pro-Palestine. But go ahead.
It's one of the great mysteries.
It truly is. And especially in Hollywood. Mike?
Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, have finally commenced a ground assault into Gaza, and I hope they finish it. They've been playing games with these people over there for too many years, and they need to get rid of these terrorists once and for all. And you do what you do in war, you get rid of them. And I don't understand why they go halfway and then expect Hamas to agree with anything they agree to. They don't. They lie. They don't keep any treaties, and it's part of their makeup. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I never studied the Quran, but I do know that it's been reported that Muhammad was alleged to have said that if you need to lie to people to get them to back away from you for a while and give you time to rearm, then that's what you do. It's a tactic that they use, and I don't get it. So, like I said, I hope Netanyahu and his party, I hope they finish it this time and get rid of these people.
Well, Mike, you know what? Another question that you have a question, as I just did. We don't understand it, but I've just been critical, as I always will be, of the mainstream media, which by definition is so biased, and it's laughable. I'm sure you feel the same.
Yes, I do.
To hear the whining about Fox, and like Fox had anywhere near the percentage of reporting to the general population of America as the option. It's laughable. They, of course, have a huge following, and again, they're almost like Israel. In other words, Israel is a little island in this sewer system of the centuries of that Middle East. It is a sewer system in terms of how they treat one another. And what I just don't understand is the Jewish community is a very successful community in this country. Entertainment, the media, newspapers, and I can't understand the ownership having their own religion and their own Mecca under the fire of a sitting president, and it goes by with minimal, if any, criticism. I just don't get it.
And here's another thing. I don't know if you're aware of this or not. You may be. This is a verifiable fact, and I don't understand why no one in the media has ever picked up on this. But the Palestine Liberation Organization, the PLO, was formed in 1964. At the time, some of these so-called Palestinians, the ones supposedly in need of liberation, were living in the West Bank and Gaza, areas that were controlled by Jordan and Egypt, respectively. Israel didn't assume control of these areas until after the Six-Day War, which was 3 years later. So if these so-called Palestinians were living under Arab rule, then who do they need to be liberated from?
Michael, you know, you gotta.
I don't get it.
You gotta come on this show. I mean, you're dangerous. You've got logic in your thinking.
I'm sorry.
You're asking vicious questions. Do you realize we have both probably offended a Palestinian or so and should be taken off the air? Because, of course, the truth is unacceptable when a minority position is questioned, Michael.
Well, if I may, I'd like
You've
to read
lost
something
it,
to you.
my
I
boy.
printed this out just to hopefully being able to read it to you.
Yes.
This was published in a Dutch newspaper in March of 1977, 37 years ago. It was an interview with a Palestine Liberation Organization executive committee member named Zahir Mushain. And here's what he said. This is his quote. "The Palestinian people does not exist. The creation of a Palestinian state is only a means for continuing our struggle against the state of Israel for our Arab unity. In reality today, there is no difference between Jordanians, Palestinians, Syrians, and Lebanese. Only for political and tactical reasons do we speak today about the existence of a Palestinian people, since Arab national interests demand that we posit the existence of a distinct Palestinian people to oppose Zionism. For tactical reasons, Jordan, which is a sovereign state with defined borders, cannot raise claims to Haifa and Haifa, I guess it is, while as a Palestinian, I can undoubtedly demand the Haifa and Jerusalem. However, the moment we reclaim all of our rights to Palestine, we will not wait even a minute to unite Palestine and Jordan."
Wow.
They admit that the creation of these the Palestinian people are an invented people. They don't exist. There's never been a country called Palestine. There's never been Palestine is an area like Cape Cod is to Massachusetts. It's an area of a larger region.
Correct.
And there's never been a country called Palestine, and they're an invented people. And it's amazing to me that the media can just allow this to continue, allow these lies and misconceptions to go on and on and on. Where are the investigative reporters? Look how much time they spent on Watergate and things like that back in the 70s, and rightfully so.
Well, again...
But why are they so selective, I wonder? I'd love to know.
Well, I'll tell you right now, Michael, you know, I want to thank you. This is the kind of caller that I hope to get out of the woodwork here. As you know, we're just starting. We've only done 3 shows.
Yep.
We're hoping to build more with people like yourself who take the time and the effort. But I'm just saying to you, the power of political correctness has now, it's got the bit between its teeth. And it's a shame to see what havoc it's wreaking on heretofore intelligent people.
That's right.
You know, they are so defensive. I don't know if you heard earlier, but I'm begging people to get away from party politics and get back to who best represents their core beliefs, not the beliefs that they demand that you believe in, you know? Yep. And it is all about, again, minority positions getting the sympathetic action. Unfortunately, too often it's women. And women get upset when I criticize them as a group. And I don't mean that it's all women. It isn't, but a high percentage of women are liberal, and a high percentage of women are Democrat.
Yes.
So if the shoe fits, you better wear it.
Precisely.
And I keep begging those women who aren't that way to be willing to stand up to those who are and stop blaming men who are critical. It's just the same as the black versus white issue. Until we get the black leadership to truly confront this runaway crime, this runaway family life with no fathers, this constant looking for handouts, and the inner city decay, until the black community steps to the plate, we're not going to be able to get anywhere.
You're right.
And all of this is just, again, why I admire the Israelis so much. They say, don't hand me that nonsense. Here's what we're going to do. They have all our respect, I think, Mike. But anyway,
well, thank you, Don. I appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you, and give all the Rocklandites my very best.
I certainly will, and I'll stay tuned.
Thanks very much, Mike.
All right, Don. Take care.
Righto.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Once again, Kenny, keep that phone number up there, and we're looking forward to having 830-3971. That's 508-830-3971. Great call. That's what we're looking for, right, Ken? Absolutely. You can't hear him. He's giving a round of applause, Michael, for that great call. There is, a mentality now that there are so many things going on in the world that require strong leadership and strong positions. And yet we seem to be worried more, again, and the media. Remember what their tactic is, too. Anything to take a focus away from something really important that makes their leaders at whatever level, whether it be the president or any other organization that they now have control of. Anytime they're shown in an unfavorable light, watch how quickly the attention focuses on something else to take away. Benghazi disappeared because of all sorts of other events. The re-election situation conveniently had Hurricane Sandy. And then notice, I just ask you to be open-minded. As I say, I believe it's no longer Democrat versus Republican, white versus black, male versus female, gay versus straight. I truly believe it's now about rational thinkers versus irrational thinkers. God gave us all a brain, the ability to reason, unless, of course, we have been, cursed with some kind of a mental illness. And unfortunately, that can happen. But people come from all walks in life that turn out to be brilliant in their thinking and in their futures. But you don't have to be brilliant. I went to Weymouth High School, got a wonderful education in a public school where it mattered. Your penmanship mattered. It mattered whether you were a good speller or not. Now we have schools where the teachers don't think, unless they're an English teacher, I was an English teacher, they don't think, other classroom teachers don't think it's necessary to correct any kind of punctuation or spelling or anything else. Now, some of you may agree with that, especially the younger ones. But that's part of the inconsistency, and education is all-encompassing. What's good in one subject should be good in another. An English teacher, if I had someone submit a paper to me and they'd, for some reason, they had an equation or had an addition and they said 2 and 2 is 5, do you think I would correct that student and tell them 2 and 2 isn't 5, it's 4? These are little things, but they're not little things in the big picture. So again, when you hear about conflict of interest, getting back to that, this is what Mike was just talking about, truly. The inconsistency in conflict of interest in this country where there's a hidden group against the Jewish population, yet the Jewish population in the Democratic Party doesn't rise up against that kind of support. I don't understand it. Mel Gibson in Hollywood. The minute there's someone that's anti-Jewish in any way, i.e., remember Mel Gibson got drunk, and of course part of the reason was he just produced that Christian movie. I'm trying to think of the title. The brain is not holding on to facts the way it once did. And he was castigated for being anti-Semitic with his comments. We get the same thing with Sterling, the owner of the basketball team. Now, we're supposed to still be a country with free speech. And offensive speaking is okay in the classroom. It's okay in mixed company, the four-letter words, vulgar talk on the screen, on television. Oh, just accept it. But if it's in an area where the media can get their teeth into it, now they punish that person. Criticize him, fine. Remember what they did to Don Imus? And was probably right. He made an insensitive comment, but they didn't fire him. They had him off the air for a while. But, you know, when you start telling people they have to sell their business, or when you tell the owners of the Washington Redskins that they have to change the name, come on. Can you honestly, you liberal Democrats, even liberal Democrats, have you totally lost it? Can you honestly not see how dangerous and how slippery a slope that is? Where does it stop? Of course, I'm older now. So, I mean, I remember when we had that saying, sticks and stones will break our bones, but names will never hurt us. Now the feel-good hand-wringers say the names are going to really damage these people all the time. For crying out loud, suck it up and grow up. Criticize, fine. But when you start using the power of the law and the power of the government to take people's livelihoods away, you know, you're in that very un-American, unpatriotic, group. I don't care how you do it. You can justify it all you want. I happen to think about when Mike was talking about the lying and the inability of the media to really tell the truth when it comes to the history of Palestine and Palestinians. You know, we've had groups in this country that take on their aura. In the 60s, remember, we had Jane Fonda, Hayden there, Tom, was it Hayden, I think, who I forget the name of his organization, but they get credibility, of course, because they were anti-war, anti-Vietnam. I mean, think today if Jane Fonda had been a Republican, had been a conservative, and went over to the enemy. I mean, just think about it. That's way back in the 60s. Today, she's glorified because she's a movie star. How many soldiers were damaged? How much incentive and support did her visiting with the Viet Cong? How many lives were lost? But that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to these people. And it is a pretty sad state of affairs. Again, we have our phone number is 508-830-3971, excuse me. Pardon me. We have a caller. Fabulous. I was just getting a little bit hoarse here. Can that caller identify himself or herself?
Yes, I can. My name is Steve. How you doing, Don?
Well, Steve, a pleasure. Welcome to the Don McKeag Show.
Well, thank you very much. I've been watching for a few weeks, and
oh, well, that's wonderful.
And I have to tell you, a few minutes ago, you were mentioning Jane Fonda and Hayden.
Yes.
You forgot someone that was very prominent, and his name should have been mentioned.
Who's that?
Senator Kerry.
Oh, God. Now, is that a classic example? Steve, Already I know we're going to have great callers because just as my radio show, I have the best audiences out there.
You know,
Thank you, because, of course, it's been conveniently forgotten his participation in his anti-attitude and testifying in front of Congress where he belittled his own fellow soldiers and knew that there were people lying that were testifying with him.
And then he said he threw his medals away.
And they were someone else's.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, oh, I didn't do that. That was, you know. So this is what we get, and people seem to forget these things, and I don't know why.
Well,
and
Steve, you know why.
You know, it's...
You know why, because
you know,
he is the darling of today's liberal-oriented. If you are a liberal, you will be protected by the majority of the media.
But, you know, it's sad because...
It's dangerous and sad.
It is, and when you say socialism, you're absolutely right. You don't have to work anymore. You don't have to do anything, and if you don't work, you can get mass health.
Yeah.
You can get food stamps. You can get housing allowance. You can get everything. Or you can be Obama and say, we need $3.5 billion to foot the bill to take care of all these kids that aren't ours.
Well, how about this, Steve? You again, thank you, because stay right with me. Remember, they vilified George Bush, too, especially, calling him stupid, saying that we were despised by other countries in Europe and other countries. How do you suppose other countries feel about this Obama, and you haven't heard one word about him? But John Kerry, again, George Bush is stupid. He says stupid things. Well, he's a down-home Texan. He's a kind, good guy. But it's okay for John Kerry, when asked who his favorite Red Sox player was, to say it was Manny Ortiz, and people chuckled.
Yep.
It was okay for Obama to say he's visited all 58 or 59 states.
He probably
it was okay.
did.
And he was okay for him to say that they were speaking Austrian in Austria. It was okay for Al Gore to say that he invented, that he was part of the love story and invented the computer or whatever. I mean,
yeah.
all of these, inconsistencies of treatment just never come to roost, Steve. They're never called on it, you know? I mean, Bill Moyer there, not Moyer, Maher, what he said about Sarah Palin's daughter, what do you suppose would have happened to a host of a show that was a Republican that ever said that?
He wouldn't be on the show long.
He certainly wouldn't be back.
Nope.
And it is, again, the public refuses to see these inconsistencies and hold both sides to the same standards.
Well,
and we're all the less for it.
The first time, he refused to wear the American flag on his lapel.
Yeah. Again. How do you need a conch on the head with a bat to understand where his mindset is? Remember Bill Clinton and Hillary? They despised the military. They wanted to embarrass. They had Marines, decorated Marines, serving cocktails in the White House. And again, I pointed this out on my radio show. I've been around long enough, you probably have too. Do you remember when Nancy Reagan and Ronald Reagan went into the White House, and she went out and bought new China. And she redecorated the White House, and they vilified the expense. George Bush, his second inauguration, they vilified how much was spent. Obama comes in, spends 3 to 4 times as much on his inaugural, and it was celebratory. Jackie Kennedy, who I adored, she went and redid the whole White House. It was a celebratory thing, which I happen to believe. But when it was a Republican, it was unnecessary spending. That money could have gone to the poor. Imagine what that money could have done to those homeless people in this country. And they get away with it, Steve.
Well, you know, what really got me one year, this was years ago, I just got married. My wife and I were living in an apartment, paying our rent, and both of us working. Our TV went. So for Christmas, we bought ourselves a TV. And we didn't buy no big, you know, fancy thing, just a 19-inch color TV. And then I remember running into this guy who was on welfare and had a 25-inch colored console. And he had two, you know, he has a car. On Brighton, we didn't have a car at first because we had public transportation. We didn't need one. He's got a car, he's got 2 dogs, and I'm saying, what the hell am I working for?
Well, that's what see, but that's the insidious cancer that's called socialism, where these people will vote for the Democratic Party because they are being enabled to do nothing and rewarded for it, Steve. Now, I was in the restaurant business. I employed over 35 years, 1,000 at least employees. I loved the people that worked for me, most all of them. And I saw these hard-working girls, some of them divorced, single mothers, struggling. I still see them. I still have friends that do that. Nobody's given them a hand, and they don't want a handout. But you do nothing. 25 years ago, the welfare department down in Hyannis, the welfare agent told one of my waitresses whose 2 young sons were growing up, they were all in 1 bedroom, and this gal who had rheumatoid arthritis, by the way, never did anything except smile and showed up every day to work. Peggy, her name was. Wonderful girl. She went to see if she could get, especially in the winter, an extra $100 toward her rent so she could get a 2nd bedroom. She was told no, they couldn't do that, but if she gave up her job. Now, this is 25 years ago, Steve, and we all know with this EBT scandal, it's gotten 10 times worse. It doesn't matter to these people. They're spending our money. Anyway, so that girl came to me and crying that they had turned her down. And I said, Peggy, you keep coming here, and I'm not saying this to make myself out to be great, but I made sure that I found her another way to increase her income. But just as you say, how about stores like Savers down here in Plymouth, used furniture, the thrift shops? I see women in there. Now, I don't say that others that are on social assistance aren't doing this, but you take a look at people who are getting something for nothing, getting a check every month. You don't see them shopping. You don't see them cutting out coupons. Why? They don't have to. That's why, Steve.
That's right. They don't.
Yep. And again, the hand-wringing do-gooders, especially the wealthy liberals, especially the wealthy women, the married, they've got their SUVs and they've got their waterfront homes. I believe deep down a lot of liberals carry a little guilt. And so they have to now show that they're kinder and nicer than the rest of us. But, I mean, tell me how it can possibly make any sense that people who are working and struggling and trying to make a dollar, stretch a dollar, are somehow now forced to even look at these people in the supermarket buying steaks when they're buying hamburgers.
You're absolutely right.
But again, look at Massachusetts. It's so corrupt. I mean, you've got the MBTA as a restaurant owner. They lost money on their concessions. Now, they have no competition on the MBTA for the sale of food and sandwiches and coffee and all. And they're losing money. And there's not a call for a huge investigation, Steve. Well, it just goes on because, again, the Democrats keep winning.
Well, that's Massachusetts.
But again, I appeal to those like myself, a former Democrat, a John F. Kennedy Democrat. I believed in, I talked about Ed King, one of my favorite people. Ed King was, I believe, the only Democratic governor that I saw as conservative. And he was thrown out. Dukakis was in before him, and Dukakis brought the state down into a horrible financial mess as he did the second time.
We
But
almost
the
went
liberals
bankrupt.
hated Ed King because Ed King said no, and he put these social services on report that he wanted to see where the money was going. And what happened? He gets thrown out. They bring Dukakis in, and Dukakis goes down again. We had 0 bond rating when he's running for president, and that tells you how powerful the Democrats, liberals are.
Well, I'm going to give someone else a chance to
No,
call.
go ahead, Steve. I didn't mean to
I want
hog
to
the...
ask you one more thing.
Yes.
I'm usually not home this time of the night. Do you have any other times your shows will be on?
Kenny, we do, and I don't have that list in front of me. There's reruns. Ken, are you there? I'll tell you what, Steve. He will give me when this show will be shown again, and then I think we're going to be consistent. I know, when are our rerun times? I don't know what No, it isn't right here. I didn't take my, my old folder, Ken. It's my fault. All right, Steve.
Yes.
Do you remember, though, it was Monday at 11, I remember, one of the shows. 11 p.m., and another is 9. I think it was 9 in the morning. Anyway, you listen up before the show's over, Steve. I'll try to have that for you.
Well, thank you very much, and I'll let somebody else call.
No, I want to thank you for calling, and thanks for your support. And please call again.
I will. You have a good evening.
You're entirely welcome, and we're going to try.
Thank you.
Again, you're welcome. I try to give you the voice of reason. I know people will shut it off. They don't want to hear. They don't want their particular party to be shown in a bad light. I'm a traitor in the minds of many. I'm a traitor to education. I was a teacher, and I'm critical of education. I'm critical of the huge amount of money being spent for the product we're getting. And I'm sick to death of this criticism of MCAS and all these testings. The only reason these testings came about is because the control of the schools was taken away from the standards that most of us came through. Think about it. You talk to the teacher. I have empathy for the teachers. There's a lot of good people in teaching. But discipline has eroded because the administration doesn't want to make tough decisions. They want to be liked. That's what we've got in the White House. That's what we've got getting elected. Oh, you can't upset anyone. Why not? Right is right. But when you're willing to sacrifice your personal principles just to get elected, how flawed is that? How good a candidate are you going to be when some of your basic values are taken away, and yet you continue to support your political party? This is what I could no longer do. I could not do it. My severance from the Democratic Party occurred when Congressman Gary Studs had that event, the 16-year-old Page. Now remember, we were paying that young man to work. I guess he was 19, but it started when he was 16. I don't care if someone's gay. It's not about that. It's about someone's position of authority. He gets the young man drunk and has sex. That's one thing. That should have been grounds for getting rid of him, period. If that was the private sector, if that came known in the Boston Globe, and that was someone working for Raytheon or for me, or if it were me, I'd lose my liquor license, and the person at Raytheon would lose his job for good, and he'd be vilified. The Democrats not only didn't go and speak to Mr. Studs and say, I think it's time we parted company, they circled the wagons. He was brought before his congressional members, turned his back on them. No apology, no nothing. He's elected 4 or 5 more terms, and they've named a park after him on Cape Cod. Now, if that's interpreted by you or anyone else as being homophobic or anti, gay, you're really stretching it. There was a Republican that got in trouble with a page at the same time from Wisconsin. She happened to be female. He knew when he got on the plane and he got off back at the airport in Minnesota, he was done. His political career was over. But a Democrat in Massachusetts, imagine that's how low the moral core has gone. Every time I hear the Democratic Party whine over moral issues, I am just amazed. And I just can't stand it. But I'm going to bring it right out, and if you dislike it, then, it's a free country. It used to be. You don't have to watch this. Whatever happened to that, too? We have, on PBS, there is a black channel, BET. Well, that's a separate channel, all black. And then we have Basic Black is the public broadcasting, the PBS TV station. I don't have a problem with it. It's fine. But what if you had a basic white show where we just talked all about issues of the black community, how it was affecting the white community, and we had all white people there? Just explain to me why that is okay. And finally, explain to me why, if a person votes against someone because they're black, against someone because they're female, against someone because they're gay, against somebody because they're Jewish, or because they're Muslim, or because they wear glasses, that's a horrible person. But if somebody votes for somebody because they're black, or they're gay, or they're female, or they wear glasses, he or she's a hero. Both votes are terribly flawed because, if you noticed, I didn't mention any kind of credentials or experience as part of the equation. Yet that's what we've come to. That's what we've come to. We have people voting for someone because of those conditions, and that is glorified. That is celebrated. I believe they said it was 89% of the black population voted for Obama, and that was cheered, and that's acknowledged. And of course, the Democratic Party appeals to that. Why isn't there an outrage? Why don't we have someone with the courage in the black community, never mind white, why don't we have someone with the courage to say, well, that certainly isn't the kind of vote that makes America stronger. That's certainly a racist vote. Why don't we have that?
Talk to me.
Because political correctness rules the roost. I watched an old movie, well, it's not that old, but it was Sandra Bullock. Of course, all these liberal Hollywood actresses and actors. And it was called Blindside, and it's about she adopts a black kid who's a big, heavy kid that's a football player and so forth. Well, she goes down and complains.
Talk to me.
And
Talk to me.
the person that's there in the social service
Don't
worker
leave me like this,
says, don't complain to
from a
me,
star.
complain to him, and points to a picture of George Bush on the wall.
Set me all
So it was his
aflame,
fault
and it's so
that she wasn't getting
pleasing.
proper treatment at the social service. If that was a
Sure
Democratic
would be a shame
president,
if
all hell would have
you
broken loose. Well, anyway, it's the
only
end of
teasing.
this segment of the Don McKeag Show,
So
and I
my
want to thank
love
our
before
callers,
I go.
and especially thank
Turn the
Ken
lights
Bukes
way down
and
low
all
and
those
talk
who have
to me.
spoken so nicely
Talk
about
to
the
me,
show
talk
in
to
its
me.
infancy, and hopefully we'll hear from more of you in the near future. God bless, and we will see you next Thursday. Good night.